Welcome to Classroom to Boardroom, where students share their big ideas. We are here to explore how they see learning, the world, and the changes they dream of making. Because even the youngest voices can inspire big change. Think big, think bold, think now.
Hello, hello all. Welcome to Classroom to Boardroom. I am your host Priya Kedia, and today we are stepping beyond textbooks and classrooms to explore how students think critically about their learning journeys, the world around them, and the changes that they wish to see in education. At Think Now Classroom, we believe that even a 14-year-old has, unique opinions about the world, the things they observe around them, and sharing these thoughts not only makes them smarter but also helps them understand how different people think differently. This podcast is brought to you by Think Now Classroom, an educational platform dedicated to enhancing the learning experience of students in grades 5th through 12 by basically bridging the gap between classroom concepts and real world experiences. This is a special students chapter of Classroom to Boardroom podcast series where we will engage with students across India to hear their unique perspectives, uncover their learning experiences, and spark fresh ideas to make education more meaningful. Today, I am thrilled to introduce our guest, Sabad, who is passionate about innovating, about entrepreneurship. I was recently told that he participated in Sydney Innovation Challenge on sustainability. He, in fact, he's a student, but he's heading his own edtech startup. So I can't wait to, dive into his thoughts and ideas. So welcome to today's podcast, Sabad. I am so thrilled to have you here. And before we jump into deeper questions, let's start with a quick introduction of you. Tell us a bit about yourself, your school, your class, the city you are from, what are your hobbies, or anything that you like to share with us. So yeah, over to you,
Hey,
Sabat.
yeah. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks so much, Priya, for inviting me onto this podcast. It's my pleasure to come on here and be able to share my thoughts with the rest of the world about a few things, about how my journey has been, right? And my journey in the classroom and how I've taken it beyond. So, my name is Sabad Modi. I'm a grade 12 student currently studying in GEMS Modern Academy in Dubai, right? And I have a lot of hobbies. I love robotics. I'm an entrepreneur. As you said, I'm heading my own edtech startup right now, and we recently presented at GITEX 2024 here in Dubai, and we were one of the select teams that were part of the startup event, and we showcased amongst quite a few professional people and we created a lot of events. So I love going to these networking events such as GITEX. I love doing entrepreneurship, and this is something I'm extremely passionate about. And I want to take this forward in college through computer science and AI.
Awesome. It was really interesting to hear a word networking from a school student because this is something that you hear from professionals. But yeah, I'm so, thrilled to see that how, even in school, students have become so much aware about, important things, about, honing their soft skills. And I'm particularly interested in, learning about your education journey because like you said, like you are studying in Dubai and I have studied all my life in India and most of the students that we are doing this podcast with are studying in India. So I would be personally thrilled to hear about different learning environments that different country can present before you. And every school because has its own unique atmosphere and that gives every student a very different learning experience. So now coming to some fun, interesting questions. If you had the power to invent something that could make life easier for students like you, what do you think it would be?
Right. So I think in today's generation, in today's age where everyone has short attention spans, not everyone can focus a lot in class, right? And people are just want to get out of the class and have some fun in school. in that kind of time, I think a smart study helper app, an AI-based smart study help app would be extremely useful. So something like it will transcribe your lectures in class, right? It can generate summaries of your class and give you a few questions, generate some worksheets for you, as well as arrange your classes based on how strong or weak you are and how much practice you need. And you can also probably ask it questions like, help it teach you some concepts and some things. And this is something I think is being worked upon as well, because it's an extremely upcoming thing, because students are relying a lot more on AI in today's day and age in the education sector, in their learning, whether it be math, whether it be physics, whether it be other social subjects as well. It is being extensively being used, and I think such an app can make quite a big difference in any student's learning journey.
That's such a cool idea, Sabad. I never thought about it, and like when you were mentioning it, I totally understood like how important that could be because as a student you are handling so many things like you're handling 5 to 10 subjects, you're handling different assignments, and you're learning different languages. So there's like so many different components and projects that you are juggling with when you're at school, apart from your unit test and then half yearlies, and then you have your extracurricular tuition. So this kind of app could help a student organize and structure his learning so much better. And a lot of kids, a lot of students have that skill intrinsically that they are able to manage their time, they're able to structure where am I lacking, where am I good at, and things like that on their own. But I feel this kind of an app would really help a lot of students to kind of streamline their learning journey. So yeah, love to see this amazing idea coming from you. And it's actually amazing to see how students themselves can have can provide the best insights on what could make learning smoother and more engaging for them. And that's why we were sure that we definitely want to ask this kind of a question to every kid. So yeah. And now one of like make since you talked about an app which could make life easier for students. I feel one of the biggest challenges that students face is balancing school, extracurricular activities, their personal time. So, with so many things happening and competing for your attention, how do you manage to keep everything balanced, and how do you, manage your time to make everything smooth?
Definitely, that's a great question, and if I'm being completely honest, because in today's day, I think managing your schedule with having so many things with your academics and with your extracurriculars or everything piling up all together, as when and having your college work and everything, I think being able to manage your time is extremely essential, and so it's something I've quite struggled with initially. But I think what a system that kind of works for me is I don't tend to I do something different to what normally people do when they have extremely strict and rigid schedules. I tend to maintain a more flexible one where after I come back from school, I write down and I prioritize my tasks. So I say whichever subjects I have homework with, or what assignments I have, whether I have some extracurricular, some projects I need to do, right, and what do I need to achieve in this specific day. And I prioritize that. And I say by this time, I should be able to be done with about these many things, right? Another thing I do because I tend to sometimes lose focus is I feel like a short 20-minute power nap between two to three things. So let's say I have an academic activity, so I have to do some homework, right? So after I did some homework, I'm either place a fun activity that I have to do right after that, so my mind refreshes, and then I can get back to some more homework, or I take a short nap and then I continue with it. So my brain constantly keeps fresh, it doesn't get bored, and I can do things at a long time at a stretch.
Yeah, that's a really smart approach, Sabad. And I think this is something that, I also used to do. In fact, I do right now also, when like I'm juggling between different projects and stuff that, try to keep a 10 minutes, 15 minutes of time out to kind of let the brain go back to its normal state. So yeah, that's a smart approach. And actually, time management is a very important skill, and you'll see as you grow up that it will be one of, the most important things when you enter the professional world. And you know, talking about struggles, and like you mentioned that even time management was something that you struggled with in the initial period, and then you kind of mastered it. Can you share a time when you found a subject or a concept uh to be really difficult and challenging, but you eventually mastered it?
Right. So I think in every subject that you do, I think with every grade you go ahead with, you will find something of that sort, something that's extremely challenging, something that's extremely new. And what really depends on is how much effort you put in to kind of master that and kind of overcome this difficulty. So I can give you an example right now in 12th where so I have integration that came in, right, in your calculus. And I think integration was extremely vast, right, of syllabus and then the amount of questions that can come. So I think for about a week, about nearly about a week, I think I did about 60, 70 questions per day of just integration, just practicing, learning the concept, being able to do different types, and not only sticking to my syllabus, but going a little bit ahead, taking questions from different syllabus, and really watching YouTube videos, like and using the help of AI to a certain degree to help me able to understand and being able to solve different types, different forms of integrals, and that really helped me master it. And I think integration is one of the easiest subjects for me. It comes to me very naturally, and I'm able to solve and do pretty well in class.
Oh, that's an inspiring anecdote, Sabad, like how you kind of mastered something that you found really difficult. And this approach of like going aggressive on learning that thing through, your textbooks, practicing a lot of questions, then, you're watching YouTube videos, just like going really aggressive on like one topic and then kind of mastering it. So I love that approach. And it really shows that persistence definitely pays off. And you know uh, we do have like a lot of setbacks and like low scores and things that can bring us down, but the approach that you mentioned could always help us get back to our feet again after such a setback. So talking about setbacks and challenges, have you ever kind of received a low score that demotivated you? I mean, we always get good scores, bad scores, really low scores, but was there any, moment that you can remember that, you got a low score and that demotivated you, and how did you really bounce back from it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the lowest, I think, this one subject I distinctly remember in which I got extremely low score in. So in back in 10th grade, I got a 40 in my second terminal examination in history. And I think that was extremely shocking to me. Uh, and my teacher actually did believe that I wasn't going to score too well in my board exams. And he told me that, hey, you're not going to do that well, right? And I hope you prove me wrong. And so what I did, I think then we had about a week, a month, month and a half's break. And within the entire month, what I kind of did was I woke up early mornings and I used to just grind history. I used to do different school papers. I used to do past year papers, prelim papers, mock papers. I learned the entire textbook, and I think by when my board exam results came, surprisingly, history, which was my weakest subject, was also my highest. When I scored a perfect 100 in history, so it's only surprising, but it was also, I think, my hard work that I did pay off, and I kind of use that same aggressive approach that you mentioned previously, that going aggressive into it, learning it, and trying to be able to master it. So I know the entire syllabus from the back of my head, and I'm able to do anything that they throw in my way in the exam.
That's such a valuable lesson, Sabad. Like, that, I think a lot of people face that. In fact, I remember while you were mentioning, I remember when you mentioned the number 40, I just remember, like, I was like a very, topper kind of a student in my school. And then in my BTech second year, I got a very low score. Like I got a back in one of the subjects. And I was like, that was the first time in my life when, because I was always like a topper student or something, to get that kind of a score. And uh, but then, yeah, you kind of, rise back from that, and then you feel like, okay, this bad score doesn't define me, and then you kind of go aggressive on that one particular subject until, you master it. So yeah, amazing anecdote. And now moving to a slightly different topic, like you mentioned in few of your answers, that you use YouTube videos, you use AI to kind of help you uh, make your learning smoother. So today, like you, many students use technology as a tool to improve their learning. But everybody feels that it's a bit of double-edged sword there. So do you think that technology in schools, uh, or whatever way you use it at home for studies, it helps learn better, or does it become more of a distraction?
I think definitely, like you said, it is a double-edged sword. But I think the future is AI. The future, the way education is moving and is gonna change. AI is definitely going to be integrated in every single classroom, in every single way, in the way you learn in the future, right? AI maybe and robotics together. But definitely, I think it needs to be used in restrictively. So not because students do get distracted by mediums such as social media, Instagram, YouTube, and sometimes, like, let's say I'm watching an educational video on YouTube, and I earn my recommended, the next video comes and has to be happens to be something different, something more funny or something that's unrelated to my academics, and that gets you distracted, and then you don't know where the next hour goes, and you're just watching more and more of those funny videos, and that distracts you. So definitely, I think there needs to be some amount of restriction based on it, but AI def and technology definitely does help you understand concepts. So let's say you don't understand something in class, you'll go back home and you try to understand this. And I think AI can give you and teach you in some sort of ways, in a more personalized way. So it can get to understand you at what level you are. And with that basis of understanding or on your level, it can give you an explanation. It's something that you can correlate. And that really helps you understand it in a little better way. And that's why I think AI plus teachers in a mixed environment is the most effective way forward in education, in teaching, because using them complementarily would be much more beneficial to the students. Personally, that's what I personally feel.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective, Sabad. It kind of boils down to, how you use it basically. And since it is very interactive, it is engaging, it can be a game changer. It can especially be helpful for kids who do not really, understand well in a very traditional classroom setting where, the concepts are just thrown at them. So maybe at least for them, it could be like a big game changer there. Yeah,
Definitely. I feel like because a lot of students do learn in different environments, different methods. So some people are visual learners. Some people like to do things with their hands and learn by doing. Some people like to
right.
see and watch videos. So using these different mediums, I think a lot of times teachers are not able to adapt because the class is mixed with all these different types of students, all these different types of students who learn in different ways. The teacher can only teach in with one medium, right? And that kind of doesn't address each and every single student in your classroom. So by using AI, you're able to add that little bit of personalization, which helps students to learn in their own sort of way. So if a student wants to learn something by doing, the AI can probably tell you an activity that you can perform to do it. Let's say it's a small experiment at home to learn something in physics, right? For people who want to learn by seeing, right, it can either give you a YouTube video or it can generate a video on its own explaining the concept visually, right? And people who would like to hear can again go watch it on YouTube and stuff like that. So these small things, along with the teacher giving you an explanation on her own, him or his or on her own, is using them complementarily. I think would add a little bit of personalization and be able to address every single person's unique way of learning.
No, I completely agree with you. That's a very good explanation for, why it has to be used along with the traditional classroom setup because everybody learns in a very different way. So one teacher teaching cannot handle that scenario of, learners having different styles of learning. Yeah, I completely agree on that part. And now kind of moving beyond classrooms and how you learn kind of consciously that through books or through your laptop or in class. uh, we know that learning also happens in everyday conversations. At least that is something uh, I as a professional or any other professional that you will meet or your elder cousins or people in your family or your parents, you'll hear from them that a lot of learning happens in everyday conversations, like at home with family. So coming to this question, do you think discussing things that you learn at school with your family, during dinner talk or during while you're traveling or something, is helpful?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyday conversations bring about something or the other that's new that you probably haven't heard of. And I think conversation does lead, and as I said, early networking, right? Conversation, as such as net, even in when you're networking, conversation over there as well leads to something or the other that you haven't known, and that leads to you exploring a little bit more on something new that you've found out, right? I think for me personally, I do talk to my parents, I do talk to my cousins at times of what I've learned, but more important, I think during dinner time, I'm more focused not on academics, but a lot more of world things related to the world. So let's say, because I'm personally interested in entrepreneurship, in technology, in AI, in startups, and so I think these things are things that you should talk a little bit more about because these are things, the topics that are real world things that are happening, and through these you can kind of have a better understanding. So I talk to my dad little bit more about AI. I talk to him about startups in India, in the US, in all these different places, and how we go about our daily life, how we use these things. And if I have any ideas or any project ideas, things I'm thinking about, I do discuss with them. And that it provokes a very thought-provoking conversation about different ways you can implement it. And I think that is more important than just talking about solely academics, but rather applications of these things in the real world and these real world news, because that is what really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sabad, because even like if I would say even if somebody wants to talk about academics with their parents, it's not really something that both parties can engage in because they like studied those things long back. They won't even remember, you know, the very academic part of it. It's the real life, real world things that is something that can be engaging for you as well as for them. Like something like you mentioned, you discuss startup ideas, so that's a good part. That really helps you to think that okay, how can a particular problem be solved? And when you discuss it with somebody like your parents or your elder cousins, they generally have more real world insights to provide you than you might be having. So that kind of helps both the parties gain something out of the conversation. So that's amazing that you do that already. In Think Now Classroom, in our courses that we are offering, this is something that we are trying to we have kind of included as part of our three-step learning methodology itself, like where first step would be you will attend our classes with, a peer group of 12 students. Then you will have certain things that we'll provide you that you could, like, taking inspiration from them, you could discuss with your family, elder cousins, anybody. And then you will have a component where we'll provide you, we'll give you some inspiration, and you will do some self-thinking where it's like a thought process flow that, okay, I studied photosynthesis today. Is it related to something I studied some time back in some other subject? Is it related to, say, light? Uh, can the formula of area or volume that I have learned in maths be used anywhere in photosynthesis to develop a product? So in the third method of our learning strategy, we help the student kind of like make a mental map of different concepts he or she has learned in different subjects to kind of, consider learning as one seamless thing, and not like, you store physics in different compartment of your mind and maths in different compartment. So uh, the idea of moving away from strictly classroom setup type of learning to organic ways of learning where you discuss with people and you do some of your own self thinking to get your mind clear, to consider learning to be one seamless experience, is something that we are, also trying to propagate through our courses. And it's good to see that, you're already there and you're already kind of incorporating that in your daily schedule. So, um, you know, like we talked about, learning experience can be different for different people. Somebody else could like a more visual method of learning, and somebody could like something else. So to,
Yeah.
just understand what you like to do, in your experience, like for you, what makes a classroom feel very fun and welcoming?
Yeah. So I think similar to like what you are doing, I think freedom of learning is something. I think that's what makes a classroom interesting and makes it very comfortable. I think when the teacher allows you to go a little bit above the textbook, right? Above what you are allowed in the syllabus, what you have to learn in the syllabus, but go a little bit deeper into the topic. And when the teacher's open for questions, open for this exploration of learning and being able to attend to every single question and being able to answer it, right? Or give us food for thought to actually go home, maybe explore a little bit more and understand topics in a more deeper with a real world connection. I think those things make a classroom more entertaining and more engaging. In fact, as well, like I think one class we were doing, we're talking about electromagnetic waves in physics, and I think the topic completely swayed from electromagnetic waves. Then we just shifted all the way into microwaves, into FM radios, into X-ray waves and all these things, and we just gotta delve deep into with questions and everything about the applications, how these actually work, right? How radio stations work, how you can listen to music in your car, how these antennas are these dish satellite TVs and all these things. How exactly do these things work, and how exactly do these things function? I think those things make a class memorable, and they don't let you get bored in a class, and you feel really excited to actually go again to the next class and see what's upcoming. And that's what learning really is about. I think
Right.
being excited about learning, being excited to explore a knowledge and gain knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really true. A positive classroom environment can, make all the difference for any student. And like you mentioned that the freedom of, kind of exploring different aspects of something that is being taught, and uh, able like having that flexibility of, getting your questions answered. I remember, when I was doing my master's in IIT Bombay, we had these difficult math subjects in every semester, but our professor, you know, uh, although like the class was kind of 1 hour and he had to finish some things, but in most of the classes I used to come up with some question that I would have, and then he would answer that, and then we'll have follow-up questions, and then he'll answer that. So it always turned into a discussion. And then after the class, he would always wait for us. He would always like give us that extra time that, okay, do you guys have more questions? And then we'll stay back, and it used to be a very engrossing discussion. So I think in my learning journey, when I was in masters, that changed my view of learning. That really there were difficult subjects, there were difficult exams, but this whole environment of having your questions answered, and ability to kind of discuss around something, it really made learning feel very different to me, after attending school and bachelor's. But I felt that kind of positive classroom environment only when I did my master's. So I can totally agree that what you mentioned is something really important to make learning engaging for anyone. And that's of course, like you mentioned, different for different people.
Yeah.
So again, kind of building upon the answer that you just mentioned, uh, can you think of a time when understanding how a topic is used in real life actually helped you learn it better or remember it better?
I think the easiest subject that you can just kind of reference that to is, I think, business, right? I think in business or economics, these are subjects that you will apply real life in the real world, and even mathematics, right? Because mathematics is applied in economics and business to a certain degree, but because like you'd mentioned earlier, right? I think because I do have my own startup, right? So when we're kind of when we're starting out, right? There were there are a lot of different terms. You have to figure out what cost acquisition is, what exactly equity is, these different terminologies that you learned in class. But when you actually get out in the real world, when you start your own business, when you start your own startup, right? These things actually come into play in the real world, and then you kind of really realize what exactly it is, what exactly starting a business is, what exactly a having equity is, what exactly how do you fundraise, how do you gain this money, right? And then how do you give about your unit economics, what exactly is the profit margin, right? What's your revenue in real world when you're actually earning, when you're actually getting these things. I think then is what it actually all makes sense, and it's not just in theory, when you can actually see the numbers, see the things, and being able to experiment with the numbers and see how you can optimize and gain higher margins for yourself. And that's where theory actually comes to practicality, and you are actually able to do and grow. And I think that's one of the biggest ways I can learn, or one of the biggest implementations of academics that I've learned in school.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Like, just reading the concepts, and then in contrast to that, when you were able to see the why behind the concept, like the why or the how or the what behind any concept, and like you gave the example of economics and the business academics that you learned, and then how you kind of got a chance to apply them directly to the startup that you're working on. It really opened up your understanding of all those concepts. So yeah, that's completely true, and I'm pretty sure like uh, it, like similar things can be gained for other subjects as well, like science or math or history, like when you kind of understand how, say, something like polynomials, which looks like, okay, I'm never gonna use this, I'm never gonna need this in my life ever. Why am I even learning this? So something like that, if you can see that, okay, yes, this is something that's there around me, and a lot of inventions, a lot of tools and objects that I use in my real life are actually related to this, are actually would not have been possible without this. So then you kind of understand the importance and the why behind learning it. And sometimes actually the most engaging class or learning experience are the ones that push you to think critically. And basically form your own opinions. So it's not the classes where you're just sitting and listening to the facts or what is being told to you, but where you are actually made to think critically and then come up with your own opinions. That's the most engaging for you. So building on that, is there any class either in school or your extracurricular activities where you are encouraged to think critically and then form your own opinions?
That's right. So I think in at least in Dubai, in our school specifically, we're encouraged in the class itself to think critically. So we're given a little higher order questions that we tackle in class, we solve in class, and we're given some time to actually understand. So the in classroom learning is made a little tougher than usual. So you're able to think a little higher over the level that you're supposed to be thinking at, and that broadens your view as well. So I guess so the system is kind of made in such a way in our school that we think in a sort of way take challenging questions automatically. And so let's say in a classroom like physics, in a subject like physics, we in physics we take up harder questions. So something so well, I'm an ISC, right? So we don't have that, but we do take questions from NCRT, maybe some easier level JE questions. Sometimes once or twice we have also done that, where we tackle these questions and try and attempt to solve these in class. Because when you these questions are break down, we have to break these down into basic core fundamentals and tackle them from the extreme basics, and that really clears up the rudimentary and the fundamentals of your subject, your fundamental understanding of your subject, which is extremely critical for anything that you do above that. Because when you have your base extremely stock solid, you can build up on that as much as you can. Like just like a tower, when you have your base extremely ready, extremely solid, you can build up as much, and it's extremely firm. Similar sort of way, when you can solve these questions from very basic, very fundamental aspect. At times we've spent, I think, an entire class on just one question, trying to solve this one extremely hard question, just so we can understand how exactly these questions can be solved. So yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And I'm also not sure whether this component is there in schools in India, but like you mentioned that this is something that you experience there, and uh, I completely agree. Like, because this is something that we have seen in our courses. So in our courses, like we are not taking a concept, say gravity, and then kind of teaching the basics of it, but then we are taking gravity and maybe um, helping students see that okay, if gravity was 20% less stronger as it is today, how would it change the economy? How would it change the society? What would change in terms of the environment? And then say you take, like I gave the example of polynomial. So you take mensuration as a concept, then you basically talk about what would happen if mensuration was not invented, and or where in your real life as a student you might need mensuration to do something, or something um like you talked a lot about invention and startups and robotics. So say there's a, like I know a lot of pet owners who have this issue that when they go to office, they know that their pets are at home, and especially if they are dogs, they feel guilty that they are not getting time to play with their dogs. So why can't we come up with a pet robot kind of a thing, um, which can play with the pet and play fetch with the pet,
Yeah,
kind of provide treats and things like that, and then we
definitely. Yeah.
give this idea to students and then we ask them to think about how would you make them, and then you kind of think about what school concepts that you have learned will be used here when you make it. So is it, some students will be able to think about it and they'll come up with, okay, maybe force and motion, maybe second Newton's law and things like that. So this is what actually we are also doing in our courses that you mentioned, that we take a certain topic and we like go to different aspects around it to build the foundation very strong, to basically like help you develop a, a learning process which you will, although in our classes you will learn it only for 2 or 3 science or math concepts, but when you go to your regular classes, you have already developed that thought process. You'll apply it to everything that you learn ahead. So it's great to hear that something of that sort is already part of your curriculum, and it's actually affecting your learning journey. Okay, let's wrap up, Sabad, with a fun and active imaginary activity here. And I'll present to you an interesting imaginary scenario, and you can, answer things like, how, if this happens, how would it affect the society? How it might affect the environment or economy or any other thoughts that you might have. So the scenario here for you is, what if water only existed as gas at room temperature? So this is more like, helping you think about states of matter that you learned in school. So yeah, over to you, Sabad.
So I think water, as when it's in the fluid state, it is extremely essential for everyone. It's how it exists today. I think it's extremely essential for all life forms, all, whether it be humans, us humans, or whether it be animals or insects or even plants. I think it's how the way works, how it's been created, and how our water cycle and how all organisms function. So it, it's how it would, when it exists as a gas at room temperature, it would fundamentally change quite a few things. It'll have very diverse implications, let's say. Right? And these implications, of course, we can only speculate about them, right? Like for example, it have a very extremely different effect on society, right? People would have to kind of figure out a new way to kind of drink water, right? Because we consume water in a liquid form, but when liquid water does not exist, and it only exists as a gas, we'd have to find either some sort of way to kind of drink it using it either in a gas form, in a gaseous form, or we'd have to kind of somehow chemically convert this gaseous water into liquid water that we can drink. Because because no human being can survive without water. It's extremely crucial for every organism, every system for it to function, right? On the environment, it have extremely serious effects. Our entire water cycle, our entire food cycle, food chain, everything would dynamically change because water, the way everyone consumes water would have to kind of change. And if not water, then we'd have to find some sort of an alternative, right? That we can use instead of water, perhaps, that we can consume so it can provide us the same nutrition, it can provide us the same values biologically as well within our body, and help come make our system work how it's meant to be, how it's the norm. Economically, I think economically it would be extremely expensive, I think, because this is something that's a new crisis, a new problem. And with climate change, I think, coming, it's impending as well. I think it would be, countries would have to spend a lot of money on research and R&D as well, into kind of exploring this and kind of finding out we can how we can either can take mm, consume water and a gaseous form of an alternative for water as well. Somehow, maybe has some similarities to what is being done to have humans on Mars, right? And when we're doing that, we're also over there using, I think, a system called MOXIE. The scientists are trying to convert, I think, gases, liquids, or gaseous fluids into liquid water, so it can be consumed in on the planet Mars, or where water does not exist, right? It's a completely different environment. I think so that some to a certain degree, this technology kind of does exist in today's world, but I think when you have to adapt this to our environment and I think it would be a little different. And when this does become mainstream, I think you have to think about the implications on it, on us, on the people, on the global economy, and just on animals and plants as well.
Yeah, that's a very well-rounded answer, Sabad. And the Mars thing that you mentioned kind of gave me a very funny visualization that, what if like this happens and you have like I could think of like two funny situations where one is you have the climate like all humid because like you have the water existing as water vapor, so it will be like super humid like you have in very hot and humid places in India and the world. And second would be like the thing that you mentioned about Mars, that that is something that's part of a space suit that you wear only at certain times. But what if this becomes mainstream where you have like a capillary or a pipe straw kind of a thing attached to your nose every like throughout the day and whenever you go out, because it's like automatically taking in water vapor and like putting like helping your body hydrate automatically without you having to drink water externally. So like a lot of amazing science discoveries and technology discoveries will follow, and not just actually for this imaginary scenario, for any imaginary scenario that we think about. And that's actually the whole purpose of this. We were actually so uh, convinced with this kind of an activity that we have created a whole course on this. We called it like flip the reality, because we are just creating some imaginary
Yeah.
situations which we feel like if we give these kind of scenarios to students who say studied states of matter in school, this will just help them see how a simple concept that they learned in school affects so much around them. And they it will help them just think critically. So yeah,
Definitely.
that was the purpose of
Um,
this activity,
Yeah.
doing
So
this
I just wanted to
activity.
add one thing.
Yeah.
My apologies. Sorry, I just realized I misspoke. So Moxie, I think, is not for water. Sorry, it's my apology. It's for oxygen, to convert oxygen. So I think I misspoke there. But the technology can't for converting, I think, do like I think vapors of the environment
Yes.
to oxygen is that's the system called Moxie. So I think that technology already exists. Now you'd have to adapt something like that to for the form of water, right? So I think scientists would have to still spend a lot of time, and that could take maybe 3, 4, 5 years, 5 to 10 years maybe, and that would have diverse effects. And it's coming back to your thing. I think I think what you guys are doing, that this sort of course, this sort of ideologies, I think it's extremely new. I think, and it's really beneficial because it goes to show how you explore different concepts and its impacts. As let's say, what would be the impact of Newton's third law not existing, right? It would have a huge repercussions, and they would change our understanding of the universe as we believe. So things like these, I think, really help imagine it. It not only helps you understand concepts, but also helps you think critically and broadens your mind, and helps you really visualize things in a deeper perspective. So going
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the hope, Sabad, with this course that we are developing. And thank you for sharing your amazing ideas today. We have reached the end of the podcast, and like I mentioned, I think in our classroom, our mission is to make learning more meaningful by helping students like you connect your classroom lessons with the real world. Through our engaging classroom activities, by encouraging you to talk to people around you, by encouraging you to do some self-thinking on your own while you are in while at your desk. And we believe that the more connections your mind is able to make between the things that you see, experience, and learn, it just makes those things stay in your mind longer. And that just makes help people become smarter and learn better. So thanks everybody for tuning in today, and see you all for next episode. I'm Priya Kedia, and this has been this another episode of Classroom to Boardroom has been extremely interesting for me to host. And till then, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep thinking. See you next time.